Welcome to Creating a Life in Music. My name is Mike Salo. I'm a guitarist and music educator from Minneapolis, Minnesota in the U.S., and I want to know how other musicians make their living, how they got there, how they sustain it, and most importantly, the insights and tips they may have for the rest of us. I interview musicians from all over the world, from various parts of the music industry to break down the question, how do I do music full time? So join me as we discover the many different ways to create a life in music. If you're a guitar player who's ever wanted to attend music college but couldn't because it's too expensive or too far away, or maybe you're just beyond that point in your life and you're just too busy with your own family and your own career to commit to something like that, I would highly recommend going and checking out fretboardbiology.com. At only $29 a month, Fretboard Biology takes out all the guesswork, putting the right things in the right order. It's highly structured, highly organized, college-level guitar program designed by one of the top guitar educators on the planet, Joe Elliott. Joe was head of the guitar department at McNally Smith for a number of years, where he designed the entire guitar curriculum, as well as being head over at Musicians Institute in Hollywood for many, many years. He knows what you need to know. And you can get 50% off your first month when you go to fretboardbiology.com/register-salo, my last name, that's S-A-L-O-W. So fretboardbiology.com/register-salo. In this episode of the podcast, I talk with guitar player Miles Dimitri Baker. Miles is best known as a founding member and guitar player of the band Interloper. He's also ex-guitarist for Rings of Saturn, and he's currently playing guitar on tour with Ice Nine Kills in Europe. He also has a signature guitar through Schecter, and you can check that out on Schecter's website. So this episode was recorded many months ago at this point. It's one of the first episodes I ever recorded, and there were some issues with the audio, and I've tried to salvage them as best as I can, so I hope you can bear with me through the audio. But otherwise, this was a really great conversation. Miles is a really great guy, so I really hope you enjoy this conversation I had with Miles. I can't imagine getting back from tour and just being like, fuck, I just need to decompress. It's like, what is that like? Because I've only done very small stints. I mean, I gig a lot, but I don't tour. And any touring I've done has been like, we were gone for 5 days and came home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gone for 70 days just now.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
Was that with Interloper?
It was 2 tours back to back. So it was the Interloper tour with Fallujah, Psychroptic, and then Cognitive, and then I was home for 3 days in between, but that didn't even feel like a count because I was learning the set for Ingested, and that was on that Lorna Shore tour.
Damn, dude.
Yeah,
are you in that band, or is that a sub thing?
I was just filling in.
Just filling in.
Yeah. It was wild though. Every show on that tour was sold out, dude. And it was all like, it's just big venues, man. It was gnarly.
Dude, the Lorna Shore, I haven't checked them out, but I had a buddy recently who was like, have you checked this band out? I was like, I hear about it all the time. I just haven't listened. I'm really bad about listening to music these days.
It's hard. It's hard to sit down and do it.
Dude, it is. I find myself, I either go back to album I like, or I listen to podcasts.
Yep.
Yeah. So I find myself being like, yeah, I don't want to risk listening to a new album right now. I just need to go to this jam. I have been jamming the new Meshuggah consistently nonstop for how many months now. And then I still go back to old shit. I'm still like, ooh, Kolos, or, oh, I got to go back and listen to some Obzen. I was bad about when their last album came out, not the most recent, but the one before that, I don't remember the name of that album that came out after Kolos. But I was afraid to even get into that because I was like, well, I don't want to spend the time with it. You got to spend all that time. I'm just going to go back and listen, which is ridiculous as a musician to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a comfort thing, though. It's like I don't always feel like listening to new stuff, and it really, truly is like an investment of time to just sit and try to take something in. It feels like a chore sometimes, because I want to listen to something and enjoy it, but I feel like with a lot of stuff I like, there's too many things I want to listen to in it where it's I can't really just casually toss it on, I don't know. Maybe there's just a comfort thing. It's I feel like I want to be I feel like when I want to listen to something new, I'll either hear someone playing it, like on the tour, for example, our driver would be playing music. I'll be like, what's this? And when I hear it. I'd put it down in my Apple Music like library to listen to later. But a lot of times when I go to listen to something new, like I want to deliberately, like I want to go listen to it, and it's like that's what I'm doing. I don't want it to be while I'm doing something else.
Right. Yeah. I used to be that. I used to have to do that all the time. And recently I've discovered it's like, I guess I just have to do it while I'm doing other stuff if I want to get something out of it. Cause I mean, I remember specifically when, it was Between the Bear and Me album, the one that came out after Colors. Can't think of the name.
Parallax.
No, the one before that. Don't remember. But the one that came out after Colors but before Parallax, I specifically remember like it came out, I put it on and I just laid down and listened to it. And that's like the last time I've done that. And that was like that album came out in like 2009 or something.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore. Now I'm like, I don't know, mowing the lawn or something, put on the album.
Yeah.
Like I went back and I started listening to older Contortionist stuff because I didn't get into them till Language. So I went back and started listening to some older stuff. And even like when I got into them with Language, I didn't really fully get into them until Clairvoyant. So I even went back and listened to the latter half of Language that I always like kind of put off when I'd listen to that. I'd listen to the first half and then go do something. Then I'd be on to something else.
Yeah.
So I was doing that recently, and damn.
What was the early stuff? What were a couple of the Exoplanet? That was that.
Yeah, the stuff before their current lead singer, essentially, because Language was the first one with him, and
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know his name, but I love him. He's such a great vocalist, and seeing them live, he has such a presence. They're one of my favorites to listen to. Like, there's just some really cool stuff with harmony and everything. So speaking of vocals, so you have a new thing and you're doing vocals for it.
Yeah, the Voidbringer, yeah. It's
Yeah, dude.
I just said it's a Voidbringer on its own. The Voidbringer, yeah. No, yeah, that's what I've been doing. Yeah, I'm digging that.
Yeah, man. What is doing vocals and playing something you've always wanted to do, or was that like you were like or did it come later? Was it something that you've been wanting to do, like doing vocals and playing guitar, or did it something that developed over time where you're like, I think I want to do this?
I think it was something I always wanted to do. A lot of the people I always looked up to tended to like play guitar and do vocals, whether it's like Winter Sun, Ensiferum, Children of Bodom. I mean, when I was young, like Metallica or even like Bullet for My Valentine, like a lot of these bands have dudes who like play guitar and sing. I'm like, it's cool, like it looks sick. It's just like, it's a cool thing to see someone do because it's like, wow, like really multitasking. And especially with like Obscura, that was not the big one. That was one of the first ones. I think Obscura and Necrophagist.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Not that like Bodom or Ensiferum stuff isn't hard, but like that Obscura and like Necrophagist stuff is like really like up there, like it's pretty Olympic. So yeah, I've always wanted to do it, and then I think like I've been wanting to like really actually do it for a little bit, maybe the past couple of years, and then remember I had Andrew show me some stuff, and I think it was when Alexi died from Children of Bodom, I was like, all right, I got to do this. I have to start another project and do this. There's no option,
Yeah.
So.
You make it a need as opposed to like a want or like I should. You're like, I need to do this.
It just felt like it was time. Yeah, it was like, all right, I have to do this right now.
Yeah, I get that whole like certain things can happen that like change your wording of how you can see about doing something. It's like having a desire to do something and then being like, nope, got to do it. It is like a total. It changes your approach to it. Like it makes things happen essentially.
Oh yeah.
So I gotta imagine like also like seeing like Andrew take that same kind of role or kind of, I shouldn't say role, but like shift, because I first discovered Andrew from being in Faceless and doing that and being a guitar player. And then all of a sudden I saw him doing vocals and stuff. And then imagine you guys are good friends, like being like, yeah, he's like, my buddy's doing it. I got to be doing that shit too. Like I've been wanting to do it for a while. Was that like any like push to do it?
No, I don't think so. I've always
Okay.
really liked Andrew's vocals, but I don't think him doing it was such a thing. 'Cause, I mean, I had known him for quite some time, and like he had been doing vocals and stuff and playing guitar like the whole time. So it wasn't anything new, you know. Like
Okay.
it had been many years. Like I always thought it was sick, or was like, yeah, like maybe he'll show me some stuff one day. And you know, I just never really took it seriously and took the time. And then there was just something changed, and I was like, yeah, I need to learn how to do this, you know. And I had him show me some stuff. He got me like, I think that was why I was able to do it so quick, you know, and like be like relatively proficient at it. Not like proficient, but like relatively good. Like I can comfortably do that now, you know. Like
Nice.
there's still things I'm working on and trying to get a little bit more comfortable with, you know, like tension stuff. Like, you know, like it is with guitar. It takes you a long time to get like be relaxed and do it, you know. But yeah, it's just like kind of showed me the right way so I didn't have to do it all wrong. You know, like I learned a lot of guitar stuff, self-taught, like technique, and I had to relearn like 5 years into it. You know, I think people taking lessons early on or like being guided early on can really save a lot of time. You might skip some exploration for sure. Like I definitely feel like I learned a lot by doing it wrong for so many years.
For sure.
But on the other hand, it's like maybe like I would be further along if I didn't waste those 5 years playing wrong. You know, not waste, but like where could I be now?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
been so long. I don't give a shit anymore because I've been playing for like almost 20 years at this point. It's like, who cares? You know, but you know, it's one of those things you could think about and be like, huh.
If you're a guitar player or bass player, you should really have a copy of Guitar Pro tablature software. I've been using Guitar Pro for like 15 years, and I really can't live without it. At this point, it's sort of an industry standard within the guitar education realm, and it's really easy to use. You can make all your licks and write out all your songs, and you can actually use it in conjunction with ultimateguitar.com, where you can download Guitar Pro files and learn all your favorite songs. So I couldn't recommend this software enough. And if you use the code MikeGP at checkout, you can get 10% off your copy of Guitar Pro 8. That's Mike, MikeGP, at checkout, guitar-pro.com. Yeah, so actually that's kind of sets me up for like one question about kind of what is that background? Like where did you start? Like was this something, you didn't start with lessons, so you were self-taught, and did you end up going to school for music or anything, or did you have any like teachers in school that kind of guided, or was this more of like, I want to play guitar and I like the style of music, so I'm going to start playing? Or was there like any friends that kind of influenced this, you starting to play or anything like that? Or was it in the family or anything?
No, I mean, so when I was younger, so I always thought like music was pretty cool. And I grew up around with music. My parents had music on all the time, you know, like it was something I always liked. It wasn't like a foreign thing, but no one ever played. No one in the family plays. And I remember I was at this school and they had like a band, and there was one of the dudes there played guitar. And I remember being like, whoa, that's cool. Like distortion guitar, like sounds badass. And that kind of made me want to play. And then one of my best friends when I was a kid, he had a guitar and he was playing. He had an electric guitar. It was an ESP, like an LTD Viper, like the SG type model.
Yeah.
It's black. I remember, like, vividly remember that guitar. And I would always try to play it, and it was right-handed, obviously, and I would flip it over and play this way because it was just like I can't hold it. It feels wrong. You know, it's like trying to do something that you just like shouldn't with your left hand, you know. Because I'm actually right-handed. I just play left-handed for whatever reason. And
Interesting.
yeah, I think there's a lot more people like that than it seems. Who play right-handed and are left-handed. Like Andrew's like that. He's left-handed.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like I know like several people who are like that. It's less weird than it seems. But
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm ambidextrous, so like I do certain things with both. I mean, I do the main things with right. Like I write with my right, I throw with my right, but like I eat left-handed, I brush my teeth left-handed. I don't know why. I think my mom's left-handed, so I think she just shoved a fork in my left hand and said, "Eat your food," and shoved a toothbrush in my left hand and said, "Brush your teeth."
That's amazing. Wow.
You know,
mm-hmm.
She hasn't said that. She hasn't confirmed that. I just always assumed that was why.
That's such a different, like imagine doing that the other way though, or at least for me, like trying to brush my teeth left-handed. I would probably be like I mean, I could do it. It's not like that hard, but it's like, I feel like I'd like bump my gums a bunch or something. I'd like hurt myself.
Yeah, I have noticed like like I play drums, and I have noticed like it was fairly easy to start to make a flip and start to use my left hand as my dominant hand or whatever for cymbals. it's not as comfortable as right hand, but I did notice it wasn't that difficult to do the switch. But yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know. I had a buddy who was not very good at music and couldn't tell which way he should go when we were younger, and he would play left-handed he had a left-handed and a right-handed bass, and he'd play left-handed for a little bit, and then a couple months later he'd be like, I think I'm right-handed, and then he would play right-handed for a bit, and I think I'm left-handed, and then go back. He wasn't very good, but he just didn't have a knack for music, which is no knock on him or anything. It just was it's just funny to see every few months he'd switch to the other one. Yeah. Try to see if that would help.
Yeah. Never fix the problem. It's like a natural inclination people have. People are just better at some stuff. People are better at, whether it's athletics. I think a lot of that has to do with different ethnicities and stuff, like body types, people are better at things, or and then you get into brain stuff, people who have a knack for, science, or people who can remember things really well and probably good at history. It's there's so many different things that's I almost feel is out of it's more than product of your environment. It's it's a hardwired thing. You and your generations past are all just kind of good at this one thing.
Yeah, I really believe in that, and because my whole family has a natural knack for music. It's just that I'm the only one who really pursued it in any fashion. My dad played, so I just grew up around it. And so I've tried to dissect that exact question before of is it exposure? Maybe is it there's a lot of music in the family, even if the family doesn't play, maybe, dad or mom is a huge music fan. So there's always albums on, or the radio's always on, kind of one of those things. I've wondered about that a lot because I can't tell for myself because growing up, I woke up to the radio on every morning. That's how I woke up. My mom just always had the radio on. Yep. And I don't know. Yeah. And I don't know if that is the thing that did it, or if it is a bloodline thing. That sounds dumb, a inherited thing. Bloodline. Yeah. It's in the blood. Yeah. If it's inherited, because I have no idea. Because it's not I've talk to my cousins. Can you do that? Are you able to count triplets? Yeah, exactly. Analyze this for me. And that's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because people ask that to me all the time. Do you think talent is inherited, or it's you're born with talent, or do you think you can practice your way into it? And my answer, I think, is yes, both. Because you hear people talk about it all the time, how they're I practiced my ass off to get to play like this. Steve Vai always says how he practiced so hard to play as well as he does. And he used to do the 21 thing where he'd play something, he'd have to play it perfect 21 times in a row before he'd move on. Did you know about that?
No, but I never did perfect 21 times, but I definitely had this and I've had some hand injuries, and I still have problems with my hands now. They've never been the same since I remember one specific moment, and they've never ever recovered the same. But prior to that, I would really do that same kind of thing where I would play, a lick and an extended lick, something long. And if I missed one note, I'd go back and do the whole thing again, and it would make me want to just rip my skin off, So
yeah,
I think I get what that point is, but doing that 21 times, that is. Especially something of length, that is, he's lucky his hands aren't hurt. That's how you hurt your hands. That kind of repetition is really bad for you.
Tendinitis, man.
Yeah, that carpal tunnel, tons of different inflammation problems and straining issues and stuff. It's a real thing.
It really is.
That's another thing. You're talking about genetics and music. Why can some people do that? Why can some people pick, for example, and not knocking him, but Jason Richardson, very tense picking, and then I used to pick that, probably not even as tense, and I got tendinitis so bad in my elbow, I had to stop playing and relearn. It's your body. Everyone's body is just different. It's crazy. Yeah. There's no one answer.
Right. And I play relatively tense with the alternate picking stuff. I've always have, and I've tried to break the habit, but I do the same thing. But I also don't do my career isn't full of lots of alternate picking passages. It's one of the things I can do, but it's not something that I have to do on a daily basis. I can get by with just a lot of legato and stuff, especially like in gigging that I do. Since I'm not doing a lot of like metal stuff at the moment. But yeah, man, I've thought about that a lot because I was always like, why didn't I ever get tendonitis? Because I used to have practice days where it was like all fucking day, and it was like no different than my peers. And I'd have one of my buddies, like I had one buddy who got it in both wrists at the same time, tendonitis, and was out for like 6 months or 7 months. Like outrageous. And I was always like, maybe I just have such bad attention, like ADD, that I can't sit and practice for long enough to do that. Because I did find that that's supposed to be off. That's super annoying. Stupid Mac. That's supposed to be off. I did find that I did do that. Like I would get to points where I would get stir crazy and have to get up and go do something. So I would do like shorter. But I don't know. It's like you said. I think it's less to do with like do this in your practice and you'll avoid that. It's like, okay, yeah, but like I practice just as much as me and this guy practiced the same exact way. He got it, I didn't. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's in our bodies. Dude, look at like, why is Keith Richards alive? Like look at that. And like, why do some people drop dead at 25 living the same lifestyle? Like you just don't know. It's just like it's gonna happen or it's not. And there's obviously precautions you can take, and like I'm sure you've had. Like I did, like I think I had signs saying like, hey, you should like, maybe stop practicing as long. Like my hands, like you start getting like, if you're at a long session, your hands like kind of shaking, like you're not really in control of it. It's like you're kind of trembly.
Yeah, I actually, I have that now, depending on what I'm doing. But it's actually not. It's okay right now.
Yeah, but I mean, more specifically, like right when you feel like you're playing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not like if you're just shaking in general.
Yeah, it seems to be fine right now. I think it's okay right now.
The whiskey has cured it.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, got the clanks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I had a little too much fun when you guys were in town last time, I think.
I remember that was fun. That was a cold night. That was a freezing night. I remember it was 1 degree or something. I remember
it was bad. It was bad, and that clown room freaked me out. The clown bar. I don't know if you remember that.
Downstairs.
Yeah. We were sitting there hanging out, and then like out of nowhere, I'm like, "There's fucking clowns everywhere in this place." And I had no idea because I'd been to that venue multiple times, played it, never been in the basement, never been in the basement.
What was that place called?
Turf Club.
Turf Club, that's right. Yeah, that's not a bad place. It's actually kind of nice upstairs. The stage was really small though.
Yeah, totally. Very small stage. You guys killed it.
Like tall and just like tiny. It's like they almost did it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you guys were like, I'm 6'2", and I felt like my chin was at the top of the stage. It's a very tall stage.
It's gonna be 6 feet tall and 4 feet deep.
It was because you guys were like next to the drummer.
Oh, dude, yeah, I couldn't move that night. I remember I bumped into the cymbals over and over. The bleed in my ears from the microphone because it was so close to the cymbals was so bad I could barely even hear anything. All I was hearing was just like the whole time.
So what's your worst sound story? Like worst issue, like the worst sound you've had as far on stage? Is it that?
That's happened a lot on smaller stages. I mean, there's definitely been like some self-inflicted sound problems that are pretty funny actually, but there's a big one that I can think of. This was just kind of like a disaster night. I mean, we've had nights where it's like there's the PA drops out, like things like that. Like that just happens, and that's like, it's not like, oh, this one time that the PA dropped out. It's like that's happened multiple times. That's out of our control. But what sticks out to me is a night in Indianapolis. So we did our sound check. We're all good. Everything's good to go. Got everything backline, we're ready. And we go up. It's time to play. hit play, tracks start rolling, samples come in, ears are good, we're all ready to go. We're on stage, we start playing, and then all of a sudden, slowly, it's like, and our guitars start like disappearing, the mix starts disappearing, and we're like, I'm like looking over at Andrew like, this is the worst interference I've ever heard in my life. This is so bad. And then all of a sudden it just turns into pure like TV static. And we're like, we have to stop. So we have to stop. And the audience is like, what? And we're like, oh, sorry, like something's up. And started again, getting about, a little bit less into it. And then comes back and we're like, what the fuck is going on? This is so bad. And Andrew realizes the charger for the laptop was unplugged. The laptop was dead. It was dying. It was like powering off. And that was why he couldn't run anything. Everything runs through the laptop. So we have everything going like Axe Effects, microphones, goes into there so we can monitor it. And then it goes out of there in a snake to front of house. So it's like we're screwed. And we played it off really well. Everything was all good. We're laughing. Like the crowd was laughing. We're just like, yeah, this is what happened. And like, it went really well. Like it was fine, because even a whole nother thing, when things go wrong on stage and you have a fit about it, you look like a clown. Like if something goes horrifically wrong, you need to be cool and everyone else is cool. Like it's all good.
Exactly. Cause you're setting, you're like, you're for lack of a better term, you're like in charge. You're like the king of the room. So like however you act is however the rest of the room is going to act. And so if you're chill and cool about it and just like, yeah, whatever, no one cares. They're there for you. And they have you on a pedestal, literally as well, if you're at Turf Club, and no offense, Turf Club. So anything that you do, no one cares, especially if it's like you're the one of like the main bands on the bill on that tour. Like they're like, yeah, whatever, cool, start over. Like I actually watched Guthrie Govan do that. Like he picked up the wrong guitar and it was like in a different tuning and he started playing and he was like, oh, wrong guitar. And then like they stopped and he put it down and they laughed and picked it back up and everyone thought it was the greatest thing. And there's no judgment from the audience. They're just like, haha, no harm, no foul, funny, like cool.
It's like a unique memory though. That's the thing. It's like, it's not like, oh, it's good when things go wrong, but it's like when that happens, you have to realize that like you're creating like a unique moment for those people to remember. And like you're the one dictating how that plays out.
That's such a good point to make, I think, because I think a lot of young people, oh my God, a lot of young people, aspiring people, I don't know. Because I had a bad problem when I first started playing. I had like 17 or 18. If like someone made I'd have it all planned out. We're doing this and this. And if there was a mistake, I'd be like, just like lose my shit. And I remember my dad once, I was like 17 and we played, I don't remember the hell it was, but the drummer completely like just fucked up a section and just stopped. And I was like, keep going, like a 17-year-old kid. And my dad played in bands. So he afterwards, he was like, don't you ever fucking do that again to your friends. Like you look like a dick. Like, I don't know if he said that, but he did say the first part. Like, don't you ever fucking do that to your friend again. Like, that's totally unnecessary. Like, you did not need to do that. Like, you just calm down. It's not a big deal. Yeah. And I never did it again. Yeah. Never did that again.
That's a big thing. It's just like, it's very, it's unbecoming to see someone do that. It's fucking nasty, but I understand.
It can ruin like depending on the stage, like a bigger stage, we read articles about this shit. You're like, oh, so-and-so from so-and-so flipped the fuck out because something happened on stage and, didn't have to because you just made a joke of it and been like, all right, cool. And here we're back to it,
Yeah, exactly, man. And that's what we did. And we got the power back on and we kept playing. And I will say this was hilarious. The next song, drummer broke his kick head. It was just like, this is unbelievable. Like, it was hilarious. Like, I wasn't bummed about it at all, but it was just like, this is like someone is doing this to us right now. Like, dude, this is like out of control. And the rest of the other drummers on the package swapped his kick drum out like during the song because we didn't stop.
That's great. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it was incredible. I mean, it was funny. And like, oddly enough, like that was like how we handled that. I feel like reflected this. Like that was we like as far as the merch night goes, that was one of the best nights we've had. And I think it was because that like back and forth with the audience, like everyone was having such a good time. You know, like it was a really cool thing more than just like rocking out with us. They got to like experience like a genuine reaction, not us performing, but like how are these guys like in real time? You know.
Yeah, dude. I think, you know, what's that term? That term of like lifting the veil or what, there's some term of that. Like when you, what the hell is that term? I don't fucking remember, but like, yeah, piercing the veil. You know, I don't know if that applies when you have super fans involved. Like you have these people coming to see you. They have you in their mind as this like thing that they've invested in. They're huge fans. If something happens and that veil gets pierced, you're like, yep, this fucking happened. It's almost like these days, I sometimes think it actually benefits you way more than it hurts you. Cause now they feel like, oh, now I kind of know them. Like now I kind of know, I saw them like in a vulnerable moment. And now like I feel even closer to the person that I like been idolizing or like I like their band or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think that like that kind of thing could make something go like someone who's not a fan of your band, you know? And
Oh yeah,
like,
because they see how well you
and
handled
it's
it.
not something like I'm even picturing in my head. I'm like thinking about people who would like deliberately do, like I know people deliberately do stuff like that where it's like, oh, what, and then it comes back on, but like that's still part of like a rehearsed event versus like seeing someone's eyes be like, oh shit, you know, like
Yeah.
you can't think that. Yeah, the oh shit moment is very visible when it happens, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Damn.
yeah, I think you're right though, man. I think that really does do that, and that's at the end of the day what a lot of people, a lot of fans come out, especially like in like small like club tours and stuff. Like they want to meet the bands and stuff because it's like we're not playing an arena where we don't have to wear like a wig and hide and like run to the bus because it's like out of control, you know, like where it's like we can't hang anymore. Like where's on a level where it's like we can go hang out and like talk, and like that's a really big thing that I think a lot of people want and enjoy, you know. And I think it's silly to not provide that, you know, because it's
Yeah.
like that's what we're here for, you know. These are the people who are the reason why we're even here in the first place. Like the reason we're even in this city is because those people bought a ticket to come out.
Right. Exactly. And I think I've been noticing this. I feel like there's been like kind of a shift in general towards that type of attitude across the board, whether it's in bands or even on social media and stuff. Like there are the big heavy hitters that have been doing it for a while, you know, in any capacity. And I wonder if people are starting to realize like, well, I can get the same thing that bigwig provides from this guy over here, and this person actually talks to me and cares what I have to say and answers my questions and hangs out, and that's like that relationship aspect. I mean, look at Patreon for example, like things like that it creates an open door to the person that you're trying to support, and I think people are like, oh yes, like all I want to do is like pick this person's brain or like be involved with that person more than just like from stage to audience. And I feel like that's like a shift I'm noticing, at least on like social media. And because that's honestly the shift that I've made in myself is like catering to people as opposed to, I guess myself, yeah. and people seem to really enjoy it. And so I think in those situations, like the fact that you're like, yeah, like going and playing a show and like, let's fucking hang out. Like people love that shit. They're like, then they want to come to the next one and they want to come to the next one. You know, it's like the old school way of doing it anyway. You know, that's the way you used to do it. Yeah. Is like you have fans, but the fans are also like, hey man, like I fucking remember you from the last 2 times I've been here, like come have a drink or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And that's good. I mean, it's not like you have to spend the whole night with someone or anything, but I mean, even just like a conversation with someone, you know, getting a conversation with someone while you're getting a drink at the bar, like that means a lot. Like, I mean, I think back to like how I would have felt, or like even occasionally now, like I meet people and I'm like, this is fucking crazy, you know? Well, I think I've got a pretty good, like, I've got a lid on it, you know, pretty tightly sealed, but like, I still get excited, and obviously it means a
I
lot.
used to be bad. I used to be bad, by the way, on that shit. I used to be really bad, like embarrassing, like looking back on my days and just being like, oh, when I met that guy, I was such an idiot. Like,
That's so funny.
it happened like 3 times. And then I I was younger and I became friends with Charlie, my buddy Charlie. Ain't Charlie Engen, drummer. I don't know if you know Charlie,
Oh,
but he's a good buddy of mine. And witnessing him in those situations, I was like, oh, like he doesn't care. Like it's not a big deal. And so
yeah.
like, you know, but so did you ever have that? Like when you were like, when you
Oh
were,
yeah, being like a super like you know, like super stoked. Yeah, when I was younger, and I think it's normal. I think when people are younger and like don't get like that, it's kind of like scary. It's like, how are you? Like, it's like, what's wrong with you? It's like, like they already have the cool guy mentality at like 16. It's like, you're so fucked when you're older, you don't even know it yet. You know, like that's how I feel. It's like, you are going to go to a lot of therapy, man, if you ever figure this out, because this is not normal. Like, I think you have to go through that stuff and be excited. And like, that's part of that, like pure youth excitement of like just like telling someone you're like, fuck, like you make my whole life, like this is insane, like you make so much, like, you're the reason I do this. Like you have to do that. And I think, you know, as anything goes, when you get older, you you know, you learn how to do things more gracefully, whether it's like, you know, dating or like going to the bar. You know, maybe you're not going to have 8 shots in the first 10 minutes you're there, you know, like you're going to like go home and make it home and go to sleep in your own bed, you know, like you're going to figure it out. You know, you have to go through and do things wrong and have embarrassing moments to figure it out, you know?
yeah,
But I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because so many people have like, you know, there's different terms for it in like the scene, so to speak, where it has like a really negative connotation. Yeah, like it can be irritating if someone's just like, it's like this, like the social cue of like this conversation ending has been going on for a really long time. You're not getting it. But like at the same time, dude, that person is like so pumped to meet you. Like you need to like fucking get over it. Like this person is happy to meet you. Like I had a conversation with someone today, man. And you probably know Wes Hauk.
oh yeah. I don't know if I've never met Wes personally, but like we have a lot of mutual friends.
Yeah, I was on the phone with him for like an hour and a half today, and he said a few things to me. And one of them, like, not verbatim, but it was more or less along the lines of like, you know, think about like how hard you worked to like get to this point and to like, you know, want to throw it away for something or like not appreciate it anymore. The general thing of what you're saying was like, I understand that it can be easy to take things for granted, but you always have to remember like where you came from, and not just like, oh, remember the people from your hometown, but like remember how you felt and like all this time and energy you put here. And if you're going to finally get to that position and be like so ungrateful for it, it's like a tragedy.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
there was more to it, but that's like that. It kind of tied into what you were saying, you know, as far as these fans. It's like, you have to appreciate it, man. It doesn't matter if it's like a, you know, super weird person, you know, like sometimes there's people who really do cross boundaries and it's like, like I'm not cool with this. But if it's someone who's just like conversations kind of dragging out, it's like, take a step back and remember yourself when you were, you know, that age being stoked. Like this shit is going to mean a lot to this person for the rest of their life.
yeah, especially if they're young.
Yeah, and they're going to tell people about it. So if you want to like not only make this person who loves you for what you do feel like shit for that, but everyone else they know is also going to know that too. So you're really, it's a disservice to yourself.
One of the best things you can do as a musician is to protect your own hearing. I've been using these Eargasm high fidelity earplugs for months now, and I really love them. They're nice and discreet, high quality, and they don't make any of the sound muffled. They let in the right frequencies that I need on gigs or at shows. You can get 10% off your order if you use code MSALO10 at checkout. That's my first initial M, my last name Salo, SALOW 10 at checkout to get 10% off your order at eargasm.com. Yeah, man, this is all really great stuff because it's all about kind of self-awareness and being aware that like we're all humans and that we don't need to have this separation of you know, like if you meet someone who's who you idolize, you can be like, yeah, it's literally like meeting anyone. Like, it's just, you've put this person up in this way in your brain. So just treat them like you would if you met some person who does what you like. Oh yeah, man, I love your stuff. Like, it's really great. Like, I'm a huge fan. Like, you know, you just talk to him almost in the same way you would like we're talking now. Like when I met you guys, I mean, I've been following you and Andrew for a long time, and I was like, yo, dudes, what's up? Like, you guys fucking let's have a drink or whatever. And I think,
We did.
we did. But yeah, that approach, like when I was younger, I would get less like, hey man, what's up? I'd get more like, I would like shut down is what I'd be like, oh, hey. And then I'd like say really stupid ass shit. Like I remember I met a guitar player once who I'm not going to name, and he's like, and they were like, hey, do you know Mike? And he's like, yeah, I know you. And I was like, I don't know why you would. Like, why would I say that? Like, why is that what you say? I was like, oh, then after I said it, I was like, oh, I sound like a dick.
That's so there's certain comments that like the flusteredness when someone says something, or they're like, oh yeah, it's crazy. It rained for 3 days here. I'm like, okay. That's nice.
And I think it just comes down to be like, if someone says something like, hey, yeah, I know, you're like, oh, sweet. Yeah, cool, man. Like, it's just like, you just gotta like, it's like nowadays I treat it like if a random person at a bar goes, hey man, I heard you talking about this. I do that too. It's like, oh, sweet. And then you just have a conversation. And it's like, you're just hanging out and making a friend. And it's you know, it's something to be learned over time, with, especially when you're younger, just getting used to those conversations. But again, like what you were saying, it's like you have this awareness of it, and that, like, you know, we're all just hanging and having a good time. And like, you know, that's really the goal at the end, is just, I want you to enjoy your time, and I want to enjoy my time here, and we'll just hang out and have a drink, or we'll hang out and bullshit, and then we'll go on our way, and then you'll have a memory and I'll have a memory, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah. And I mean, I almost kind of refuse to believe when there's people where it's like, oh yeah, I don't care who I meet, this and that. It's like, okay, you know, like, I don't know how, like, you could be around someone who you've really looked up to, like, and not be stoked about it, you know, but the tact in which you deliver your statements and how you react to them being around is the thing, kind of like what you're saying. But it's kind of weird when people are like, oh yeah, like, I don't give a shit. I'm like, you are psycho. Yeah. You have to care, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just a tact. It's like, I mean, like, if you were going to, like, say, a job interview, you're probably not going to be like, yeah, I've got this dog, and then when I was younger, my mom, like, this is thing, you know, like, there's certain just like social cues, you know, you have to be able to fit in socially, you know, with people in any environment, whether it's music or a job, or you're talking, or a conversation, like different types of conversations. You know, there's certain ways you have to approach things, certain things you don't say. You know, is someone crying, you probably shouldn't be like, hey, it's all good, do this, you know, like, like, there's certain ways you have to approach certain things.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, you could talk about this forever. I don't know.
Yeah, dude. But it's a good awareness thing, man. I appreciate that. You're like, you know, that's the way I think too. Like, especially with the grateful thing, the thing that Wes was saying to you is so resonates with me, because
I mean, it was really in depth too. There was a lot more to it. I'm not going to necessarily like repeat it, but it was a really moving thing.
Yeah, and like, you know, I mean, and Wes is like, I mean, 10 years older than you, probably 6 years older than me. So he's got even that longer series of experience, you know, that wisdom, as you might say, to be able to, like, you know, whether we like it or not, you know, people have that little bit of extra life within the industry. Yeah. They're able to kind of like come to those conclusions before, and be able to share those conclusions before we are able to even realize them ourselves, or maybe we have realized them, and then they're able to share them and be like, oh yeah, man, you're right. Like, such a good thing to point out. 'Cause, like, you know, that's something that I think is helpful especially for musicians, man. Like, talk about being a musician for a living. You got to find these ways to be like grateful for what's going on, because it can be a shit show at times, because you're essentially, you're self-employed at all times, and it can be unpredictable at times, and
Mhm.
it can be very, you want to give up at times. And even people at the top level, like top of their game, who are like the top on the planet, I've talked to people who are like, yeah, I mean, I wanted to give up before, with music, and having those mindsets. I'm a huge like, proponent of that stuff. Like, that's what I listen to all day, like podcasts, just like, yeah, I can do it. I have the power. Type stuff. Yeah. Be grateful for what I have. And that stuff it only helps. I mean, none of that mindset can ever hurt, really.
Yeah. I
But
mean, I think it all. I mean, he's a dude who's just like full of wisdom and knows. He's like a man of few words, and the words he says really matter. I think, and it's all about perspective. Like, there's a lot of things like doing this and doing music. I feel like it's and something he said, and I mean, I think we all probably know this who do this and play the game, so to speak. It's like it's a really cool thing full of really lame things. It's like doing music and pursuing this is awesome, but there's so many things that we have to do that are just so lame. Whether it's like playing the social media game, having to film this stuff, and that creates like in itself like a battle of authenticity of like, is this even what I want to do? Am I like displaying myself for me, or am I displaying what I think this app wants me to be? So I will be favored by it, and people will be allowed to see my posts. So in hopes, what I started doing this for might actually happen. Like it's a whole thing you have to crawl through.
oh,
That's like a
100%.
whole mess of problems. Because like I remember back when I, started making videos and stuff, it was like, oh, this is fun. I want to shoot video, whether it's a pain in the ass to shoot it or not. But like, I wanted to. I was like, I'm going to shoot this video. It's going to be fucking sick. I'm going to nail this take. I'm going to put it on the internet. I'm stoked, and like people would see it and it'd be cool. But now it's like, there's so many different things where you put all this work into something and just no one sees it, because like you haven't posted enough in the past, 87 hours, and we're going to penalize you for it, but you could pay for people to see it. It won't show many, but you can see some of them. It's like, it's so demoralizing. But,
Dude.
it's like I'm trying to shift my perspective, especially after that conversation I had with Wes today, like you got to think about like, man, I hated the job I had before. I was a cashier at Home Depot. I wanted to go to aisle 12, find the rope, and just get it over with. Not really, but I was like, this sucks, like I hate it, and I wanted nothing more than to like pursue doing music and really, like just being able to do what I do now. And so when I get upset and then like I'm bitching and moaning about the, social media, or I have to do emails or whatever, it's like, hang on, let's reel it back here and just like, remember how badly you wanted to do this and how much better this is than like what you fought so hard to get away from, and it's like, maybe I'm gonna go change my diaper and stop being a baby and actually just like try to enjoy what the hell's going on here. You know what? If I make a video and no one sees it, who fucking cares? I'm making videos and someone's seeing it. People like, we're at a point where people actually want to see something we're putting out. Like, stop being a crybaby, like it sucks, but it's not going to be perfect.
And are you're 28, 29 or
yeah, 28, yeah.
20. Yeah. So that's like, dude, the best time to have these realizations, because by the time you're 38, you'll have fleshed these things out to a point where it's benefiting you in a massive way. Because I've gone through the same shit, dude. I'm going to be 35 in a month, and up until this year, I've only known you for about a year, but I knew Andrew before, and he could attest to like, I started to just shift everything I was doing, because I got to these mid 30s, and I was like, for a long time, I was like this. I was down this path of like, when I'm presenting myself online, I want to present in this way. This is the way I want to present myself. I want to be this virtuosic metal shred fusion guy. I can do the fusion thing. I can do the metal shred thing. And I want to show off my playing and my music and blah, 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 blah. And that was the thing. That was what I was doing. But the funny thing is my living since I've been 23 or 24 has been teaching guitar. That's been how I've made a living, at that point for the last 10 years, taught at a college. I taught guitar at a college for 5 years. And now I teach at an arts high school where I teach music theory and ensembles and guitar. And I teach a shit ton of lessons, and I always have. And I gig a whole bunch too in town, but and the funny thing is that gigging in town is not even anything close to what I actually would post online. So I was like living this other persona. And then something happened once I got to my mid 30s where I had this like realization of like, fuck, like I'm in my mid 30s. Like I am middle-aged as it was in the past. I think now people think middle age is like 40s, but like in the 80s and 90s, middle age was 35. And so I was like, oh shit. And I just was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not even like making content that is what I actually do for a living. Like, I don't do this other thing. Like in your case, it's obviously like you tour, and that's a whole, like, it totally makes sense that like this is my music. I'm going to fucking post me playing it, and here's how to play it. And that stuff, that all makes sense. But I had this realization of like, wow, like I needed to have a total change of how I'm viewing this. And my problem is that I had this huge, I think I talked to you about this too. I felt really weird about it at first when I would post these. I'd post something and be like, this is so lame. And I would post it. And then I would look back and be like, but that's exactly what I teach and how I teach to a student that would be in front of me.
Yeah. And
so it was like, oh, like I really need to get my head out of my ass as far as like my perception of these things. Like, it's completely okay to, it's almost like in a way you almost need to like, try to work yourself into the obscurity of the social media. Like, how can I benefit from the social media weird thing of like, here's me, look at me, but do it in a way that is like what I actually do. And I think that can be a really hard thing to navigate. And for me, it was something that it was a very conscious and a very difficult change to make. Cause I talked about this with Jake Wilson this morning, another guitar player from the UK. And he was talking, he was like, I always feel like my audience are my peers. That's what I always thought my audience was. But he's like, it actually isn't. Like they're a small part of my audience, and they might have opinions on what I post, but like 97% of my audience is actually these people who are into what I'm doing, and essentially whatever I do, they're going to be like, sweet, especially if I do it in a nice, way that benefits them. But anyway, this is about, I don't mean to go on that because I want to hear more about your stuff.
I mean, that was a good point. I mean, I get so, man, I've tried to stop giving a shit and just like put stuff up that isn't perfect and not sweat it, because I used to always sweat, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be this.
Oh, dude, I get that for sure. Like, yeah.
It's debilitating, like it makes you just hate.
Drives you nuts.
Yeah. And you think about it and you think, well, all these other people, like, and I'm in a world where like, same thing with you. Like there's tons of sick like top level players that like people somehow group me next to, and I'm like, not even like, okay, nice, whatever, dude. Like,
well, they group you there for a reason. Come on now.
Yeah, that's how it feels though. And I think a lot of people feel that way, but like I always feel that way, and I keep that in my mind. I'm like, oh god, these dudes who like are titans are going to see this. This has to be good, And it's just like, it's kind of just stressed me out. So
it's funny because they're such not a part of your, I mean, it's so the way Jake put it was, he was like, I think you always have in the back of the mind, like, these are the people that will get me future gigs. So I need to be able to impress so that they can like that way. If I'm able to impress them, they'll be like, yeah, this is the guy. Like it's like they are a small percentage of the following, but I think they're also have a huge impact on how you can thrive in the industry, because they can be the people who also go like, oh damn, this guy did this over here, and I like his playing, and I like his playing because he posted this, and oh my, band over here that I know really well needs a guitar player. Hey, go, like, call Miles. He'll do it. He'll be great. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like so I do think there's value there in that perfectionist, but yeah, it can drive you nuts. And I think, I posted some videos where I was not happy with them. And then I had someone that I like looked up to was like, sick, man, this is fucking awesome. And I'm like, I could have done better.
Yeah. I mean, dude, that's how it goes. And it's tough to say if it's like a little bit of like delusion where you're like obsessing over something to the point where you're actually like not even really thinking rationally or clearly anymore. Like, is this a bad take or is this not? And then you've done so many that it's like you say a word over and over again. You're like, nothing makes sense anymore. I don't even know what's happening. So there's a fine line of trying to do that, but I'm trying to, take the approach of just being a little bit more authentic and having fun and not stressing on it, because like my social media, for example, like my account has had some like serious problems over the years, like big, like inarguable, like shadow bans and things like that, like repeatedly. It's like, it's insane. And so
Weird.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it, but it's like, it can't be denied, but I also can't control it, so what I'm thinking, I might just make a second Instagram, post all the same stuff on there, keep mine going. And that's like what I can do to keep myself happy. It's like, I can't keep being like, well, seeing these numbers, like, you're gonna like drive me nuts. It's not fun. I want to focus on writing music. I want to focus on like putting some videos out, teaching some lessons to people who are sick, and like enjoying myself. If I start just like over everything, it's like, it's a spiral, dude. It's a bad thing to go down. And I've spent enough time stressing about that, I'm trying to just like go past that and just keep going and having fun.
Yeah. Social media is a fucked up game.
It's horrific.
And it's they favor they definitely favor consistency almost over quality. Like they just like want consistency, because like I do strive to be consistent because I'm trying to build this lessons thing out. And at some point I will start to be less consistent. And that'll happen at some point. But right now it's like, I'm trying to develop all these lesson things and trying to get that really rolling. I repost all the time. Like I haven't made a new video in weeks, and I just repost old shit every other day just to make sure that snowball is like keeps going, so I can continue to grow, because of the fact that I'm trying to grow this lessons thing.
Well, dude, something someone brought up to me on that same note of consistency, I just remembered this, is if you have, let's say there's one other dude you're competing against, right? And you post every 3 days and he posts every day, and you guys share a lot of the same followers. Like those people are going to start seeing his posts more because they're interacting with him like 5 times a week instead of 2, like it comes down to that. That guy's going to be in the minds more of these people than you are because you're posting less frequently. It's like,
it's such a fucked thing.
It's actually pretty horrific. I don't think humans are meant to operate in this kind of way at all. But
it's interesting though, because sorry, go ahead. So I didn't mean to cut you off there.
I just said I don't think humans are supposed to operate in this way at all, but I mean, that's just me.
No, you're 100%.
We're supposed to be on a screen attached to an app that's telling us how to think, what to do, and rewarding us for doing it as they wish.
Yeah,
it's pretty grim. It's pretty grim, dude.
It's I definitely get more of that vibe with TikTok. TikTok scares me.
I heard something today about TikTok. Apparently there was they favor people who post 4 to 6 times a day for the course of 6 months. They're favored in the algorithm, and those are the people who tend to go viral. 4 to 6. Can you imagine making 6 videos a day? I mean, with TikTok and the absolute cringe, garbage, trash dump that the whole app is, I could see making 4 to 6 videos because you put your phone down, you look like a fool, and then you hit post. But like, this is like, that doesn't apply for guitar players. Like, I don't think guitar players can do this. I'm talking about just like anyone, like 4 to 6 posts a day. That's insane.
There's a whole conversation to be had there with TikTok. I have a whole opinion about all that. TikTok's created this interesting thing where you're selling something that you're not selling. So you make all these posts, you got all these followers, and it's like, for what reason? Like,
Yeah.
so you have a lot of followers. Oh, look, I'm TikTok famous. And it's like, I mean, I suppose you can make brand deals at some point, but
Oh
like
yeah.
literally people have nothing to offer. They just make videos that follow the trends. They do trend videos that everyone else does, and they just get a bunch of followers. And I've seen people like, I made merch and no one bought it. And they have like, I have 3 million followers on TikTok. I made merch and no one bought it. I was like, because you literally don't provide anything. You just, you create trend videos. Like, why do they want to buy a thing with your face on it? Like, there's nothing, you make a trend, someone says, haha, and then they follow. It's like you didn't make an album, and you didn't make endless albums and then make merch for the album and then gain fans because of a thing that you're actually providing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, exactly. It's so, and then, cause I've seen this happen a lot with like kind of the funnier, like trying to be like almost like comedic, social media, people on TikTok and Instagram who don't realize, have no idea, like, and now I sound like an asshole, but they have no idea how business works. And they're really just making these videos because they're getting reinforcement. And then all of a sudden they get to this huge level and they wonder why no one's buying their stuff. It's like, because you didn't start, you literally just started making funny videos and had no means to an end. You had no path. You had no why. You just were like, yeah, just make these funny videos. And now I have a lot of followers, as opposed to like you or I, who's like, I play music, I make music, gonna start doing this to promote that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of like a hairy subject, I would say, with that. Cause you're like, oh, I sound like an asshole, this and that. It's like, I think a lot of these people like need to hear that. Like, it's like these people never were told, like,
they need to provide something tangible.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it goes in line with this, like, general entitlement that you see in like a lot of the youth. Like, I'm entitled to this, I'm entitled to your money, I'm entitled to this, and I don't think I need to work for anything. And it's like, you didn't get beat up enough when you were a kid. Like, if I grew up like that, I would have.
Wait, did you say you were 28 or 48? I don't remember.
28.
I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you shit. I'm just giving you shit.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's like, it's just so like,
you're starting to talk like I do.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to like, I'm not like a mean dude, but like.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm just giving you crap.
Oh yeah, no. It's like pathetic though, to see that. It's like, how are you thinking this is like gonna, it's just mind blowing to me, and it's like, I think it's great if these people go up and make funny videos. Like, I follow people that provide me nothing but laughs, and like, I think that's great, and that's the function of it. Like, it's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that, but to have like an expectation of being like, oh well, why am I not like a millionaire from this? It's like, well, fucking anyone could do this. Like, you were the guy who did it. Like,
yeah, it's like I have seen people who do that. And so it's actually not a rag on any comedic stuff, but I see people who do the exact same thing. And then on their profile, they're like, they're a stand-up comedian. They're an actor. Yes. They do all these things. They do all the stuff that relates to what they do. And it's like, yes, that's how you do it. So I guess what I'm saying, it's like, to all the people who I don't know who's going to listen to this, who does that stuff, but like, if they're doing that stuff, it's like, well, what's the tangible thing you could do? You're an actor. That's what you are. You're a comedian. So go be a comedian. Go be a comedian in the real world. Go do stand-up. Go do improv nights. Go try to get on commercials. Like, go be what you do. You're an actor, comedian. So when people make funny ass videos and they're really funny, but then they also are like, Craig, oh my God, what the hell is his name? Damn it, I can't think of it. Doesn't matter. His name's Craig from LA. Shit. Oh God, I'll send him to you. I can't remember his fucking last name, but he's hilarious. Makes all these funny ass videos, but he's a stand-up comedian. He's an actor, and he does that shit all the time. He does all these different things that he does, on top of the fact that he makes these hilarious videos. And maybe his name's Craig. I don't fucking remember, but I'll send him to you. But yeah, dude, like that stuff. It's like you gotta have a reason for that. And I don't know how we got down that road, but we did.
Well, I mean, one other thing on that topic before moving on is, that's like those people going out and doing the comedy and doing the stand up, like they're putting in the work, they're doing the effort to actually create something of their own and like make something of it. Like the thing is, like, I think that's awesome. There's a ton of people I follow who are like that as well. You know, like there's actually a bunch of people who like I've seen, can't think of anyone off the top of my head naturally, but there's people I've seen who started out that way. And now they're like going on comedy tours because this was their platform to like break into that thing they probably wanted to do. And now that's like, that's great. And they're going to go and, you know, hopefully the shows are great. And if they're not, they're going to keep grinding, hopefully. But it's it's like the entitlement of like the quick cash grab mentality. Like, oh, I'm going to chase the bag and do a merch drop. It's like, I hear that and I'm like, you are insane.
Dude.
You have no dignity, you fucking spineless imbecile. It's like, I don't know. It's like, it sounds so like virtuistic saying that though. It's like, you need to have this passion, you need to go do this and you need to grind. Like, that's not how I feel, but there's just like, it's a middle ground somewhere.
I think what you're getting to is like, there needs to be a reason that that you're doing what you're doing on social media stuff. There should be a reason. Like, what's the reason? What's the end goal? Yeah. Like the end goal, is it to listen to your music? Is it to teach people? Is it to provide actual comedy in the real world? Because the real world still matters, and you kind of got to do that. Like, the real world matters a lot, man. That's why it matters more than online, dude. That's why, like, I gig a lot, and it's not in. And that's kind of why I teach the way I teach now, because now I'm teaching more of the stuff that like applies to my gigging as opposed to like having this separate life of. I still do that stuff. Like I'm still going to do the metal and like fusion stuff. Like, it's still a thing that happens. But I guess the point is like, why are you making this stuff on social media? Is it because you just want a lot of followers? Like, or is it because like you have a passion about something you want to do, or you just have a business and you're like, I can make my business thrive by doing this type of thing. It was, by the way, it was Kyle Dunnigan, not Craig. You know, Kyle Dunnigan? I know the last name Dunnigan, but I don't know. Maybe I've just heard it somewhere else. Oh, he's hilarious. He has a character, I think, named Craig. Maybe, I'm not sure, but Kyle Dunnigan is so funny. So I only have about 10 minutes before I gotta wrap it up here. But there was a couple things I wanted to specifically talk to you about, and I think would be helpful. So 2 things specifically. First off, you're doing, so are you currently doing music full time then? Yeah, I do, man. I do. And is it, so it's tours and gigs, and then is it teaching? Is that the other thing or? Yeah, tours, gigs. I don't do any gigging really. Tours. It's just like touring, and then I teach, and I'll do like session work stuff. I'll like record people's music for them. Not like I don't record their music, like I play their music for them. Really? Yeah, I've done a little bit of ghostwriting in the past. I actually really dislike doing that because I write stuff that I want to use, and then I'm like, fuck, I'm giving this away. You know? That happened. There's like this one riff that just like sticks out of my head that I did a ghostwriting. I don't even know if the song ever came out, but like I remember I sent them the music, and I was just like, enter. It was like so sad, dude. I'm so bummed. It's so good. But yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's awesome, man. So like touring and teaching, and that's like, I feel like that's like, what I have found, and what with the, my friends around here is that seems to be almost like a very, very almost like the norm. Like I tour or I gig a lot, and I also teach on the side. And I think those 2 things work hand in hand. I think doing one or the other takes a large role. And when I mean large role, I mean like a large position. So like if you have a high paid gig, then you can just do that gig. Like a very high paid, like my buddy Charlie plays drums for Five Finger Death Punch. He doesn't teach. He just does Five Finger Death Punch. Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, for obvious reasons. But I have friends who are like department heads or like professors at colleges. They don't really gig because they're college professors and they just teach music all day. They don't really have to gig at all. So, but the most people I think do exactly what you do and what I do, because I do a combination. Like I'm like, I teach a lot. I'd probably say I'm split 70-30. I would say 70% teaching, 30% gigging. And that fluctuates at the time of year.
Oh, dude, yeah. This time of year specifically tends to be hard for teaching because everyone is broke because of Christmas gifts. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, December and January are rough.
Yeah. So I lucked out. Because right now I've had a lunch. This week is insane. This week is like 8 to 10 every fucking day for the last 2 days. Oh,
8 to 10 lessons a day?
Oh, no. Time in which I'm working, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So like I started teaching at 8 a.m. this morning. No. I had a podcast guest at 8 a.m. But I have a lesson tomorrow at 8 a.m. And but it's because people booked way ahead of time. But my bookings have just like halted the past 2 weeks. But I was getting a lot of books. But the reason they've halted is because everyone's in Christmas mode and holidays mode. So just saying to what you're saying, like, yes, it halts. It's just, this is my last big week. So yeah, dude, that's great. Cause like, I think it's really important for people to hear like I think growing up when I was a kid, you would think like, oh, they play in a really awesome band. Like they that's all they do. And it's like, no, like a lot of people, like they come home and then they're like, well, I teach a bunch of lessons. Like that's what a lot of dudes do. They get home and like when Charlie was before Five Finger, he was with Scale the Summit. And then that's what he would do. Go on tour, Scale Summit, come home, teach lessons. And like, I think that's a super valuable thing to take away for people is like, it's not one thing that anyone does in the music industry. It's many things. And maybe it's two, maybe it's three.
Depending on the tier. Yeah, for sure, man. I think so.
Yep. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to ask you with the little bit of time we have left is, so you have a signature Schecter.
Yeah, two. Actually.
Two. Oh, two now. Yeah. The 7 and the 6.
Yeah, 6 and the 7, man. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Which is awesome, dude. That's fucking awesome. I've been low key. Dude, look at that. So I've been low key specking out Schecter stuff. I've been very impressed by a lot of the Schecter stuff recently, and before I actually signed with Kiesel, I was actually talking to Schecter about stuff, but this was like 6 years ago or 5 years ago, and went with Kiesel instead of Schecter. But now I'm like, yes, Schecter stuff is fucking awesome. And like I see your guitar, and I'm like, that thing's sick. And
Schecter stepped it up in the past couple of years, big time, man. A lot more like
they really have.
They were, and like I'm like a signature artist with them. I'm not like talking shit, don't get me wrong, but like they were definitely always kind of perceived as like the Monster Energy, like SRH lifted truck guitar brand, and it was a lot of the bands were like that, and like a lot of their guitars reflected that. And I mean, I don't know that the build quality was ever like bad, but a lot of those guitars just had like, they had that image, like that was the brand image.
Crosses on the fretboard for every guitar, and
like that kind of stuff, and like just like different things that kind of alluded to that. I think in recent years they've really stepped into like when the Sun Valley Super Shredders came out, which is what this is like totally based off of. It was like, oh, that's like a classy guitar, like that's cool. It's like it's a ripper guitar, and it's like kept putting stuff out. Like the Keith Merrill models kind of started.
And the Nick Johnston and you and Nick Johnston and Keith Merrill, like I see those and I'm like, I mean, those things are sick. Like do more. Like
that shit. Cool. Yeah, like cooler, like different headstock designs. I mean, I'm a huge headstock dude for sure. And I think they've really just done a lot of cool stuff, and they've got more and more models coming out. Like it's cool. I like it. They seem to,
dude. They seem to be very catering to their solo art, or to their signature artists. I mean, so like looking at Keith's and looking at yours and looking at Nick Johnston's. I mean, you guys are the three that stick out for me the most. I look at those and I'm like, wow, like they really like. I feel like, and I don't know any of you. I mean, I know you, but I don't know those two guys at all. But like, it just seems like I have to imagine that they were like, this is what I want. And Schecter was like, yeah, sure. Like, that's what we'll do for you.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like that's been the vibe. Cause like they made a Strat for Nick Johnston, like a sick one. And it's like, they never did that. And they completely changed the headstock for Keith Merrow. And it's like, that thing's sick too. It's like they were like, yeah, we'll do that shit for you. And it's been really, it's been impressed me to the point where I'm like, maybe I should call Schecter.
Yeah, exactly.
Because yeah, they have great shit, man. So the real question I want to ask you before I have to cut us off here is how does one go about making that relationship and doing that? Because I think that's a huge question for many people who are trying to become. They're like, how do I get endorsed or endorse a brand? And especially how does one come to a point where they have a signature instrument? I think that's because like when you were younger, you knew you felt that way. Everyone does.
Yeah.
So to have that's got to be pretty cool.
The signature thing, man, I have to say Anthony was the guy who really pushed for that. He's the guy who signed me to Schecter. And that dude he just straight up believes in me. Yeah, and believed in me. Like I was in rings and all this stuff. He signed me like right when I fucking joined that band. I'll tell you more about that in a sec. But as far as like the signature aspect of that goes, I left rings. I didn't have a band. I had this idea for Interloper. Like Interloper existed, but like it wasn't a full band or anything, So like I left this band that I was touring a lot with and like playing a lot of shows with their gear. And within that time between then to like Interloper kind of like doing something, like they decided that we should give me a signature guitar. Like that was sheer like faith that dude had in me, like 100%. And like that means the world to me because that guy, I wasn't doing shit and he's like, give him a sig, like it was crazy. And I think he saw like the drive and the willpower I had and he knew like what I was capable of. I could go out on the road endlessly. I can like do this. I can make the videos. I can show up on time and like do my thing. So that was like a whole other kind of like freak situation. Like, I don't know why I got that outside of him just really believing in me, which is crazy. It's like one of those like movie stories is like what it feels like to me, like you just had faith and then it all worked out. It's like, it doesn't work that way. But, as far as getting endorsed and stuff, man, I mean, a huge thing. And nowadays it might be a little harder because keep in mind, this was like 8 years ago, which is crazy to say, like the social media world was far less convoluted with like, and no offense to the people who like play guitar and make videos and do stuff. Like, I think that's great. Like I think that's sick. And I think it's awesome that you can take videos and put them up on the internet. You have fun doing it and people like it, like good for you. Like you should never stop doing that. But I think it's made it harder to like stand out. And like, what do you have to offer above the other sea of people who like are insane guitar players? There's like some dudes I see, like I'll come across videos on my Explore page with a dude with like 100 followers. So I'm like, this is one of the most insane guitar players I've ever seen in my life. Like, who is this guy? Stuff like that happens, but it's tough to stand out. And I think more importantly, a lot of these companies nowadays with that are probably looking for like a pretty considerable following. They want people seeing you playing their instrument. They want people that look up to you to be like, what does he play? Because I want to be like him, I think that's kind of like where we all started. Like I got an ESP guitar when I was younger because Kirk Hammett and then Alexi. I was like, I want to be,
dude, exact same reason.
Yeah, it's like that's like
I still have my ESP. I still have it. It's at the high school where I teach, but I let the kids use it all the time. But I should.
Yeah, it's sick. That's why people do that, because they want to be like that. So again, it comes down to kind of what you were saying. Like, what do you have to offer? Like, what are these people offering? They're offering this company, a lot of views, people seeing their stuff, exposure. You're offering people who want to use the gear because they look up to you. And I think another big thing a lot of these companies look up to, especially if you don't have like a killer following, where you have like, you get a lot of views on your videos, is probably, are you playing a lot of shows? Like, are you touring? And that was how I got endorsed. What I did was I hit up Schecter because I was looking at companies. I was like, I need a left-handed 8-string that isn't custom shop and it also isn't shit. Because like being left-handed, like it's usually here or here. There's not much.
I believe that.
Yeah, and Schecter has a lot to offer left-handed. And so I hit them up and I was like, hey, here's my schedule with rings. I sent them the tours we had coming up. I sent them just like some video stats. Like, here's like the past 10 videos I've put out. Here's the amount of views. Here's the amount of likes. Like, I went in and like made it so crystal clear. So it's like, here's this amount of likes, here's the comments, here's the views, here's this, and just like 10 of those, and then here's the YouTube videos, here's links for all of it, so you can check that I'm not lying. Here's the tour dates. Let me know what we could do. It was like the most thorough email I've ever made in my life.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. That was how it worked.
That's great. Yeah, I mean that's all very good. That's very good insight for that stuff because I think a lot of stuff is going to transfer across time either way. Like being very thorough about like what you can actually offer them.
That's the
That's a
thing. Yeah.
big thing, as opposed to being like, it's all about that. They want someone that can offer them something, and I didn't this the Kiesel thing. I love Kiesel stuff, but that was I just had buddies, and I
Yeah,
wasn't
well,
doing
that's
much at
the
the
other thing.
time.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing much at the
No.
time. But I was actually doing stuff at the time. Like actually, Schecter that I hit up when I hit them up at the time, like 6 years ago, I was teaching at a music college. So they were like, "Oh, you have exposure to all these kids. Like, we'll give your students 40% off as well." Yeah, and so, but I didn't take it because at the time I was like, I was gigging locally so much, and I was like, "Oh, dude, I need like all these. I can't just play, what Schecter was offering, because that was part of the deal. Like, play what we give you." As every endorsement to an extent. I mean, obviously, if you're not filming or taking photos or anything, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but it
What
sort
you
of does.
hear on the record isn't what you see.
Yeah, my integrity though, I'd be like, oh, I have to play the thing. So I ended up,
Definitely.
I chose Kiesel because it was like, well, I have an in, and it's essentially the same thing, same circumstances, and but I would have loved to gone with Schecter for that reason, and because whoever I talked to was so gracious, they were amazing, but the problem was is I was like, oh, I just don't think, I need a Strat. I need like a, something with humbuckers that doesn't have crosses on it. No offense to that, but it was like, I'm playing like kind of standard gigs in town. Like I'm playing Prince and I'm playing, Michael Jackson, and I'm not.
Yeah, you can't show up with a Monster Energy guitar at a Michael Jackson gig.
Yeah, but I can show up with that or whatever, or like the Strat I have from Kiesel. Like this thing is just a regular Strat, and now that I'm seeing that coming from Kiesel, coming from Schecter, I'm like, but anyway, so I do have to wrap it up here. But last question, it's a big one. No, I'm just kidding. It's not a big one.
It's the biggest.
It's the biggest. Is kind of just more of like, if you could narrow it down and like say some kid came up to you and like, I need your biggest piece of advice. Like, what is the best thing you could leave with me to like to do this shit? Like for real, like make a career in music. What's the biggest piece of advice? It can really be anything. It could be like, don't do this or do that or have this mindset. Like one of those things that first comes to mind of like whatever comes to mind, that would be the biggest piece of advice you could give someone who like imagine it's your like nephew or something.
I would say it's not just one thing. It's like it's maybe a couple little things tied together. So first thing, you'll only get as far as you let yourself. You can't be over the top. You can't like hold yourself back by being too worried about what you're doing. Like you need to just try to push forward as much as you can and not hold yourself back. The next thing, this ties in with a lot of people having fear, like, oh, I got to go to college, I got to do this, which I think that's a great idea and that's like the smart thing to do. But you only get one chance to like make this happen when you're young. If you're trying to make it in a band and start this band and go out and rock and do all this stuff and tour, you can't go back and do that when you're like 45. You can go back and get a degree when you're 65, 70 years old. So work with what you have and pursue this with the intention of not looking back and having any regrets.
Great. That's great. Yeah. That's 100% agree.
Yeah.
It does get more difficult the older you get. Like at that point, you're really just you're not really starting something from scratch at that age. You have to have had built up a reputation in order to get the gig, if as it were, like Andy James in his 40s now playing with Five Finger, but did not start something from scratch, got a gig, and that's such a he's an outlier. he's obviously Andy fucking James.
Yeah, I mean, he already had stuff going before that. Like he was already pushing, like it was not like, and that's the thing. Like if he hadn't done that, because if you're some like dude who's like getting pretty good, like a guy who plays at this level at 45 versus a guy who plays at this level at 22, significant difference.
Big time. Yeah. So not the best example because he's also been playing the long game for a very long time. Yeah, I guess the point I'm making is that like for me, it's like, I'm not going to start a band right now. Like, even though I've been doing this thing for a long time, like I've been doing the music thing. So I've been doing it since I was younger, but the older you get, even when you're doing it, like imagine starting now. There's just no way. Like, I shouldn't say there's no way, but like, it's going to be way more difficult. Like if I just started now.
It feels late that I started Voidbringer right now. I think about it often. I got 28. Yeah, I mean, it's like bands don't really blow up like, and like get somewhere most of the time for like close to a decade. It's like I got Loper going. That's already rocking and rolling. We're making our way, and now this Voidbringer thing. It's like what it feels like to me is like. I really did that, huh? I see like a calendar for the next 10 years. I'm like, yeah.
When did Periphery start? Because like Misha is like 38. Misha's a few years older than me, and they started like what, 10 years ago, 12 years ago? Periphery?
I think it was longer than that, man. I feel like I was hearing about Periphery in like middle school. That was like 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah, so he would have been just a couple years younger than you.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't feel too late. I mean, I know people who are older and like crushing it in bands, but it's definitely like most of the time you see like these people started their bands when they're like 18, 19, 20, early 20s. It's like it does feel late. But I also have a little bit more wisdom. I've learned a lot, so hopefully I can bypass some of the headache that a lot of bands go through. But
so there's other bands that have done that started a bit late, and actually, for example, not to keep bringing up the same fucking band, but like Five Finger, when that band, like those dudes are like in their 50s. I mean, not Andy and Charlie, like they're not original, but the original dudes are like hitting 50, and 20 years ago, what, they would have been 30. They were not in my radar. Like how, so 50, I didn't hear of anything about them until like the late 2000s is when I first heard of that band at all. So they were already like late 30s, early 40s, starting to make shit happen for that band. Granted, they had done a shit ton of stuff before then, and then started to come together and make this kind of like intentional radio rock band. But that's an interesting story with them because they blew up in their 40s, like in their late 30s and early 40s when that band blew up. But again, they were all LA dudes who intentionally were like, we're going to put this band together and make a radio rock band, which is completely different than what we're talking about. But just food for thought. Don't feel too bad about starting your band at 28. You got plenty of time.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I mean, like I'm in it. I'm committed to doing all sorts of stuff, and like I've already, like people know, like people take it a little more seriously because I'm not just like some new dude who's like got this new band. It's like like people know who I am, to an extent, and we'll take it out and take it with a little bit more validity. I feel. So I don't know, but it's a big commitment. I mean, like the thing is, dude, if this all crashes and burns, go back to fucking school. Whatever.
There you go. Good attitude.
That's it. Yeah,
which is totally good. Like, you have the backup. I mean, totally makes sense. So I do got to wrap it up here, but dude, I really appreciate you hanging, and we got to do it again sometime. I think it'd be great. There's something else I was going to say, but I don't fucking remember, but it's okay. Yeah. Let me know when you guys, when's your next tour? And that's what I was going to say. Next tour and anything you're working on that you want people to know about.
Well, next tour, I don't have anything booked right now, so I don't know. It's up in the air. There's a few things stirring, but I don't have a confirmation for any of it. Voidbringer EP came out Wasteland is the title of it. It's a cool EP. I'm stoked on it. We got some new music coming out as well. We're working on some stuff. Hopefully it's going to be a big year as far as releases go for the band. A lot to listen to, over the course of the year. And the 7-string signature model, I think, is able to actually be like in stock more than just a pre-order at the end of this month. So that's great. Yeah.
Great. And you have some courses on Riff Hard, right?
Oh yeah, I do have a course on Riff Hard. Yeah.
Riffhard.com. So there you go.
Yeah, it's like a subscription thing. But yeah, I think I have like 73 videos on there.
Damn.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It was pretty huge, man. It was like 3 days of filming straight, and we had meetings about it for like weeks and weeks before about like all the topics. It was really gnarly.
Damn, dude.
It was cool.
I'd like to hear more about that next time.
Yeah, you can hit me up anytime about it.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you being on, and until next time, buddy. Yeah. If you'd like to join my Patreon to get your questions answered by the guests, then you can go to patreon.com/Mike Salo. There are several tiers there that you can take part in, and lots of different perks like pre-recorded guitar lessons or even one-on-one guitar lessons with me. There are live master classes every week for certain tiers. And again, you can go to patreon.com/Mike Salo to check that out.